It's rare for me to be at a loss for words because I'm a pretty talkative bastard, as videos will indicate, but episode 11 of season 2 took my breath away and honestly, I think disturbed me the most out of any episode, which is weird to say because the majority of the episode wasn't like overly graphic. There was graphic imagery for sure, but there was something about the progression of this episode that just went pure horror and lives up to the horror tag that ReZero really is under. Because when your character is returning by death and has gotten to the point that he's pretty much lost his humanity and is okay with tossing away a life and just trying to see as much as he can see, killing himself using that knowledge, and really has no compassion for life as it is because he firmly believes he's immortal, it really is living up to a horror tag. And the end of the episode with that imagery and how it's so fuzzy, and some people may want to say that's a way of censoring so they don't have to actually show the gore but can still show it on TV. Whatever that may be, I think the fuzzy imagery was the perfect way to not show us exactly what's happening, but we get a pretty good idea, especially on some of those wider shots, and how I'm glad we didn't see it, because letting your imagination fill in the rest as we have a blurry picture makes it far more terrifying than if I just saw the blood and gore as if it was a slasher film. You have Subaru towards Beatrice, you have Subaru towards Roswell, and then you have Subaru towards Amelia. And all three interactions were insane, and I thought it started off insane, and then slowly but surely, I realized I hadn't seen insane just yet. We'll go in order, but I have to say, it's amazing. It's a masterpiece, and I'm so dumbfounded that this series continues to improve episode by episode, and I'm already excited for the winter season when we can watch the second core of ReZero, and I'm so happy to know that literally ReZero Season 2 is like the most popular thing on Netflix right now, so I'm pretty sure we're not going to have to wait too long for Season 3, which has me excited. The Beatrice and Subaru content was so interesting to me because where were you going to go with this? Where were you really going to take their relationship? Because can we really trust this person with a book that's telling her everything and apparently really isn't friend to Subaru? And throughout the conversation, it quickly made me realize that despite her being someone who's very, very old, and yes, her body looks like a child, at the end of the day, she really just needs salvation. And some things that I remember people bringing up as quote-unquote issues is when we first saw Beatrice get killed and, you know, Subaru realized that the mansion was screwed over. People were like, how the hell could Elsa do that? And there's a couple of things to that. If you did watch the imagery, all the doors were open, and in this episode they mention exactly how she did get into the library by opening all the doors, and when there's only one left, she'll obviously get inside of it. But also, Elsa's a very powerful being. Like, when we first saw her in Season 1, that wasn't even her at full potential there. Like, she's ridiculously powerful, so I'm really glad to see that they touched upon those things and really gave you an indicator of why she's so fearful, because it's easy to forget about those characters we haven't seen in a long time, and those smaller details like how do you get into the library when, you know, it should be her controlling it. So it's nice that they touch on those finer details while also just indicating how sad and scared she is. This is someone who's for like 400 years have been waiting for that one person to open the door and kill her. And when you hear that, I'm just sitting here thinking, are you kidding me? I was expecting something else. I was expecting, oh, you know, old Ekidana was, you know, saying, oh, Subaru or someone like him will come someday and, you know, maybe we'll be able to change the world. But no, she's bound to this oath and curse, and eventually the book ran dry and there's no pages and she's holding on to this book. And it's just like, the more you listen to their dialogue, the more sad you become of this, because I was ready to go in here, just ready to be mad at her or being like, we can change this, we can fix this. And I was like, this is just a sad, sad interaction. And I was really happy with the direction they took the twos, because it is so heartbreaking to see someone just cry in a fit of rage, being like, can you cherish me? Can you save me? Can I be your number one? Can you overwrite this oath? And no, you can't, but can you at least kill me? Because she can't kill herself, spirits are different. And I'm just like, it's painful, because the one thing you never tell Subaru is that you wish you can die. You can say that to anyone but him. He's someone who doesn't even look at himself as human anymore. He's someone who embraces the fact that he's immortal and that his lives, his interactions with people are temporary, but he's going to find a way to fix everything. But you can say that to anyone, but you can never say it to him, because life is such a valuable thing that he looks at for others, just not himself. It's so interesting to see that back and forth, because it'd be so interesting if he could just throw it in people's face that I can return by death. This is what I'm doing. and you want to do this, why not help me? But he can't say that. I mean, we've already seen what happens when he actually has the opportunity to say, I can return by death. Things get a little haywire, and the witch kind of comes up and consumes the world. So it was nice to have that interaction, and how it was so heartbreaking to see Subaru, because last week he definitely had this like sense of he lost his humanity, and the first interaction in this episode feels like he's kind of getting it back, but is obviously very conflicted about what to say or do. So when Elsa does appear, you really start seeing the motions and the gears turn, and it was interesting because it felt like, when you really think about when we found her dead the first time, she's someone who's wanted death. I mean, even when she died from Elsa in this episode, she embraced it with a smile. She obviously helped Subaru get away, but still, at the end of the day, it's clear she wouldn't put up a fight unless Subaru was there, which is why she obviously was kind of shocked by some of her moves and things like that. So it's interesting how they touch upon those finer details, and you look at the past episode when we first came to the mansion and we're like, oh, things are making a whole lot of sense. And the interesting thing is when they're kind of fleeing away and they used the shadow magic, and just, I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then we see Beatrice actually absolutely go insane and seemingly kill her. And then they transition to be like, no, she's powerful. She's one of the most powerful characters we see in this show. Beatrice isn't going to win. And even throwing in the more shocking elements that the little girl was pretty much behind a massacre, and Petra apparently died. And I'm just like, what do you do with this? Like, you just keep introducing character after character that just keeps stabbing Subaru in the back or saying words that feel like a stab to the heart to him. It's very interesting how they just really set it up as this is the main focus, and everything that we're seeing here is so important. And then you get, I was like, all right, it's reset time. I mean, that's just what you expect. And then you see him go back. And when you see Amelia and just the creepiness, I was like, okay, are we looking at the witch? We're looking at Amelia. What's going on here? We know they look the exact same. That's the whole reason why, basically, you know, she got ridiculed for being the witch, because she shares the appearance from back in the day. And just the creepiness when you start off first seeing her was in a league of its own. I was like, there's no way they're going to top it. And boy, was my face red when we saw it got top at the end of the episode. But the interesting thing of just being like, okay, because a lot of the theories floating around of why it went into a winter wonderland, Puck, because if you remember back in season 1 when Subaru was carrying her body, you know, you saw like just Puck in giant form and he cut off Subaru's head. So I was like, okay, this is clearly going to be like what's going to happen here. And I was like, okay, yep, no, apparently it's Roswell. And I was like, okay, you know, why not? Let's Subaru bloody one eye just looking like death. And I was like, all right, they can't shock me. They can't. I was firmly confident I knew how this conversation would go. You know, Ram and, you know, our boy would just go away and they would have a chit-chat, and clearly return by death would be on the table, just not directly said. And because he needed to talk with him and they were getting in his way, he stabs them both and literally kicks his head in. And from Russell's point of view, it does make a lot of sense, because he knows this isn't the end. That Subaru will come back, he will return by death, he will reset, and this is temporary. For him, this is going to be his end, but for Subaru, it's not. But I don't think I've ever wanted to see a character not say something, but say something all at the same time, because it's interesting to have someone in his position who we still don't know the true motives of. He won't announce what his entire end goal is, but he clearly is sort of helping him at the end of the day, and it's hard to imagine, can you trust in someone who will easily kill people like this that he cherishes? But at the end of the day, Subaru is doing the same thing to himself because he knows it will reset. So it's very interesting, and it brings up an interesting topic we haven't seen touched before, because Subaru can't tell people I can return by death. So no one assumes that their life is temporary and they can start over. But the difference is that when Subaru does it, he knows he keeps his memories intact. But for these characters, especially Roswell, who knows when Subaru dies, the being that is him right now will cease to exist, but another one will take his place. And that's an interesting topic that we haven't seen touched upon, because it brings up a question of what do you do with that? Where do you take your current actions? Because if you're temporary, what can you really do for your end goal or your other self? And the back and forth dialogue and how he's just calling Subaru out for his actions because he's observed how he interacts. He doesn't really get sad when characters die. He gets mad because he knows he has to reset. And it's interesting to have that back and forth and see a potential alliance be formed, but at the same time, feeling like, where is he going to go when he does reset? Seeing all the rabbits consume him and how proudly he is about that, being like, you know, I'm not going to come out, but another me will. And it's like, the lack of humanity in this show right now is horrifying. And that's why I think it's so brilliant to see those conversations, because usually when Subaru's at this point, he'll slit his throat. He'll do something. But then when you have Beatrice throw him out and he can't die, and then he sees the one that he loves and she's saying all these nice words and he knows she would never say that, and then you learn it's Roswell's doing. He's purposely laying out the pieces so things will happen in a certain way. And Subaru wants to just strangle everyone, but if he does that and resets, like, what does he do? He has no answer. He has to ask these questions, but is completely dead inside. And it's interesting because it feels like there's two versions of Subaru we get to see right now. Either the one who's just empty and just doesn't know what to do and just honestly looks like a monster, just hollow on the inside, or one who doesn't value his own life because he knows he can reset and he's very stern and strong-willed in a certain sense, but also weak in the sense that he doesn't care about his own life. So to have an episode where he actually truly breaks after seeing him at, honestly, his emptiest in terms of humanity with last week's episode is really brilliant to me. And just to see him really try to hold on to this reset despite everything that's happened, it's interesting how characters are like, this isn't the time, good luck next time. And then you just end with him clearly getting consumed, but it's interesting how probably because Roswell is such an immense source of mana, they didn't need to feed on Subaru too much, so he just kind of got nulled, but not actually consumed to the point of death. And just that scene where you take one of the most beautiful scenes in ReZero, where Amelia gives Subaru her lap to sit on, and what could have easily been cliche is something that's magical because she knows he needs this, she doesn't know why he's upset, and you get the same thing, but it's one of the most horrifying things we've ever seen. Not because of how he looks, but because of the emptiness and hollowness of her words. And I have to commend Amelia's voice actress, who went in, bouncing around, not knowing what you're looking at and who that truly is, and just feeling so cold. And I don't know what's gonna happen next week. We got 2 episodes left of the first half of season 2 as we then wait for winter 2021. It's insane and I love it. It's best anime probably of this year for me, and I just love it. I'm so shocked, I'm so in awe, and I can't wait for more thoughts on the episode. I'm gonna have to rewatch this a couple of times because it's such an incredible episode. Do let me know your feelings, of course. Hit that like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.